Okay, so today I want to talk about the ARC Tour Finals, which is coming up literally next week. It's on Saturday, which is a week from today. And I wanted to talk about the players that are going to be there. I want to kind of give some predictions and some just like, a little bit of backstory on the players and talk about, some things that you might want to pay attention to when it comes to this top 8 bracket that we have. Yeah, the ARC Tour has been going on pretty much all year long since EVO. EVO was the first qualifier. And if you've maybe not been keeping up with it, or maybe you're not sure, what all these players are up to currently, because some of these players, like I said, EVO was forever ago. Some of these players qualified a very long time ago, so maybe you're not super informed on what they've been up to. So that's how I want to talk about that and give you guys like a look into what we can expect. So right here we have the bracket that we're going to have. There are 8 players qualified for this event, and we're going to kind of just go through this in order of how the players are listed on the bracket. So we're going to go from top to the bottom and just kind of talk about the matchups that we have on the first round, and then I'll give you guys my predictions on who I think will win. So the first player that we have is going to be Skyll. Now, I'm just going to be honest, Skyll is the player that I honestly know the least about out of all of these players. I've barely watched him play. I've actually only watched the tournament that he literally won to qualify. And as far as I know, he actually has not been practicing that much as of recent. Apparently he's been very busy with life stuff. Skyll, as far as I know, he is a Soul and Kai player. He plays both characters, though I think he plays mostly Soul. To my understanding, he's honestly just like a pretty fundamental type of player, as you'd expect from a Kai and Soul player. I feel like he's a little bit more on the aggressive side. I wonder how well he'll do if he has not been practicing. Obviously, that's always a cause for concern. If you've not been actively practicing the game, it's gonna be hard to do well. I'm curious to see what he's gonna bring to the table, because as far as I know, there isn't like that much footage of him out there. So maybe he's just been practicing off stream. We don't know. That said, I think his playstyle is basic enough that, I don't think you have to be super in practice to play fundamentally solid strategy, So we'll see how he does. But like I said, he's the player I know the least about. Did he play Latif on stream a couple days ago? Okay. So, I mean, obviously, he's going to take it seriously as much as he can, as much as life is going to permit him to do so. The next player and his first round opponent is going to be Gobou, who I think Gobou is like the wild card of this bracket. Gobou qualified by winning Rev Major. He ended up winning over, I believe it was Jiro, the Anji player. So the first thing that I think makes Gobou a difficult opponent is that he has a very unorthodox playstyle, and that I feel like he kind of just does whatever he thinks would be funny to do in the moment. And if you've ever seen this guy play, you would understand what I mean. He is definitely just happy to be here when he's playing this game. So that automatically makes him very threatening, because, in tournament situations, usually people are very nervous. They don't play like themselves. I feel like Gobou is just having a good time no matter what the situation is, and I feel like that makes him very threatening. It's also the fact that he plays 2 characters. He plays Gobou and Zando, and those are 2 characters that are basically polar opposites in terms of what they do, outside of the fact that they're very offensively strong, right? They're almost like set play characters, both of them. But I think that Gobou is very hard to prepare for, because he plays 2 different characters that are very different from each other, and he plays those characters different than anybody else, because he has just such a unique play style to what he does. I think Gobou's really good at just putting the pressure on his opponent and not letting the pressure get put on him. Honestly, if your opponent is Gobou, I'm worried for you, because this guy is so hard to tame in a match, I feel like. Both of his characters are quite strong right now, and both of them have a lot of advantages and disadvantages depending on the matchup. So he honestly has really good coverage just based on the 2 characters that he plays. And it makes him very hard to prepare for, because you don't know which character he's going to pick. For the next match, we have personally my favorite player in Guilty Gear Strive, which is going to be Mocchi. Mocchi has been one of my favorite players in many different games, whether it was Xrd or Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. He was a fellow fairy player, just like myself. So my thoughts on Mocchi is that I feel like he is a very calculated player, and he knows the moments when he needs to really turn up the heat, and he knows moments when he just needs to sit there and be patient. In general, I think his most impressive quality is how patient he can be, whether it be in neutral or on defense or even his own offense. The way that he runs offense as Soul is so interesting to me, because a lot of it is just sitting there and waiting. He'll just do close slash and then just sit there and wait for you to do something. He'll do far slash and just wait for you to do something. He's very good at just being patient and waiting for the right time to do something. And he's got that protagonist power. That's kind of how I always look at it. Sometimes she'll just do something that just seems wild, but it was the right thing to do in the moment. or like he'll be trying to make a comeback and he'll just make a bunch of ridiculous reads all in a row. I think he is a fantastic player to watch, and he's my favorite player in Strive to watch. And I feel like whenever you watch Mocchi play, you understand why over in Japan they rate Soul still quite highly as compared to North America, where he tends to not be rated that highly. I think over time North America started to rate Soul a little higher, but Japan still definitely thinks higher of the character than we do. And Mocchi does have a little bit of advantage, so does Skyll actually, where not a lot of players have top level Soul experience, I would say. He's not a super common character, especially one to find like a strong player playing them over here in North America especially. So I think when it comes to like Mocchi versus any of the North American players, such as his first round opponent, which is going to be NBNHMR, I think that gives him a little bit of an interesting advantage potentially. So NBNHMR qualified for Arc World Tour by winning Otaku. NBNHMR is a pretty interesting player in the Strive scene because he's kind of like the newest rising star, I would say. He qualified for winning Otaku, like I said, and Otaku was literally his first offline major, just in general, not even just Strive specifically, just in general. And I feel like he really just kind of popped up out of nowhere, not literally out of nowhere. Like a lot of people had known about him before Otaku and everything, but he's come onto the scene in a big way, and he is absolutely one of our best players over in North America for sure. Kind of an interesting style of Nago, I would say, because I think he's actually more patient than most Nago players. That's my take, at least. Obviously, you know, he has moments where he'll go kind of wild and start doing some stuff, but I think largely he plays a lot more patient than a lot of other Nago players. I think he's a lot better at playing at high blood levels than some of the other Nago players I see. Thinking about his first round opponent, which is Mocchi. Mocchi plays Dark Necro a lot. Mocchi literally had to fight Dark Necro to qualify for the Arc Tour. I think Dark Necro's playstyle is a little bit more aggro than something like NBNHMR, so I'm kind of interested to see how those things are going to kind of go together. I also mentioned that I think Mocchi has like the pro tag power. I think every Nago player is like born with protagonist power. For whatever reason, they're built to handle the clutch. I think part of that comes from just playing, you know, a heavyweight character with a lot of life. That obviously helps them, but it's going to be interesting to see those two styles clash together with NBNHMR and Mocchi, I think. That's my most anticipated round one match by far. So that's it for the top side of the bracket. And the bottom side of the bracket, we're going to have TY up first. So TY qualified by winning Arc Robo Japan, as you can see. TY is another pretty interesting player, I think, because he plays two characters. He plays Giovanna and Chip. He actually used mostly Chip to qualify. So when I think about TY's playstyle, the thing that stands out to me is that I think he takes advantage of his characters literally perfectly. I think his ability to rush people down and put a lot of pressure on them at neutral is very strong, which benefits his characters, right? That benefits Chip and Giovanna being two of the fastest characters in the game, essentially. But what he's also very good at doing is whiff punishing, which is the other thing that those two characters are arguably the two best characters in the game at whiff punishing. He's very good at kind of doing this push and pull game of like, he's going to run at you a lot, and you have to put out buttons preemptively to hit him. Once you start putting out buttons preemptively to hit him, he's going to start whiff punishing you a lot. And it just puts you in a situation where you can never really be comfortable against a player like this. His offense is fantastic. His sense of knowing when to go for strike or throw and his mix-up. It feels like a weird thing to point out because, like, okay, you're playing a strike-throw character, your mix-up is strike-throw. But some players, I feel like, are exceptionally good at playing strike-throw. And I feel like TY is one of those players, especially. So I'm curious to see how his brand of rushdown and offense is going to do against the other players. Chip is a pretty common character in pretty much all parts of the world, but I think Giovanna is a character who's a little bit less common. Over here in North America, we really don't have like a common top-level Giovanna player, I would say. So I'm curious to see how that goes for the players involved. And our next player, TY's opponent, is going to be Zando. So Zando qualified by winning the mix-up. Zando is a fellow Ram Fam player, so I'm going to be rooting for Zando, obviously. So Zando, to me, I think that he tends to be one of the more aggressive Ram players. I think he's really good at using Ram's speed and her faster normals to create like offensive situations for himself. He goes for a lot of different mix-ups that I feel like other Ram players don't utilize as much. Just in general, I feel like his offense is fantastic. Obviously, you know, he has moments where he plays patient and he's good at whiff punishing and all of that. I just feel like he tends to be a little bit more on the aggressive side of the Ram players. The biggest thing about Zando for me is where is his mental at on any given day. I feel like if Zando is there mentally and he's feeling confident in himself, he can literally beat anybody. But I think sometimes he falls susceptible to being kind of in his own head at times. So I think as long as Zando has his head in the game, I think that set is going to be very, very interesting to watch for sure. And for our last two players on this list for the last match of the first round is going to be the Evo champion herself, going to be Umisho. So Umisho qualified by winning Evo, was the first qualifier for the Arc Tour in general. So when I think about Umisho, I think of a player who is extremely calculated. I feel like she is the best at forming a game plan with her character, understanding what she wants to do with her offensive structure, understanding how she wants to play matchups, and she follows it to a T. And I think that fits Happy Chaos extremely well, being the type of set play character that he is. You know, she was kind of like the player that put Happy Chaos together, that makes him, you know, the top tier that we know and hate today. She was like the first player, I feel like, that really put that strategy together. When it comes to this bracket, I think kind of a storyline that people are kind of thinking to themselves is how are some of the players outside of like North America going to handle a Happy Chaos like this? For example, we know over in Japan, they don't really have a Happy Chaos of Umisho's caliber, or at the very least, not one that plays the same style that she does. So I'm curious to see how a player like TY, for example, or Mocchi would handle Umisho if we get a match like that. Yeah, she's obviously a fantastic player and is easily one of the favorites to do well in this tournament. And the last player on this list is going to be Tempest. So Tempest is the last qualifying player, actually, winning Frosty Fausting. So Tempest is very interesting for a couple of reasons. First one being, Tempest is the only player that has won 2 Strive Majors. When I say major, I mean like large scale, open bracket type tournament. Tempest obviously won Frosty Faustings to qualify for this event. Tempest also won Combo Breaker last year. So we're the only player so far in this game to win 2 majors. They were the last qualifier for this event. And they're also the only player that technically qualified on the same battle balance version that they're playing at the Arc Tour Finals. Every other player has technically qualified on a different battle balance. I don't think that necessarily matters, but it's interesting to point out at the very least. I mean, what else do I need to say about Tempest? We all know Tempest is fantastic. They have some of the best offense in fighting games, I think. Something that's kind of underrated about Tempest, though, I think, is actually their neutral, and I think they're actually one of the best players in the game at whiff punishing. Which I think benefits Leo quite well. Leo obviously very strong at whiff punishing with like dash 5k and stuff. You know, I think Tempest obviously known for the offense and the reads and all of that. Obviously is his strength for sure. But don't sleep on the neutral. I think Tempest actually has some very strong neutral. And that is our 8 players that we're going to be having playing this coming weekend. Overall, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on here. A lot of interesting storylines. I think the first round matches have a lot of cool things going on. Mocchi versus Nubenheimer, like I said, is the match that I'm looking forward to the most. Now, if I had to give you my top 3 guesses for like what's going to be top 3 at this tournament, in no particular order, and keep in mind, I think literally all of these players can win. They're all fantastic. They're all very good. But just to give you some predictions, I think my top 3 in no order would be Tempest, Mocchi, and Gobou. Those are the 3 players that I feel like are going to be top 3 at this event. But again, it could be anybody. Obviously, I'm curious for those of you that are watching over on YouTube, who do you guys think is going to win? Who are you guys rooting for? What are you looking forward to? What matches are you excited to see, especially in these first round matches? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. I will be watching the top 8 for both Guilty Gear Strive and DNF on my stream if you want to come watch with me and the rest of the chat. In any case, it is looking to be a very exciting weekend, and I'm looking forward to watching the matches.